Welcome to cooking cheap, easy, and tasty meals. Okay, today we're going to make pickled onions, which is pretty straightforward. I do recommend you have a sharp knife. You could use any onion, but I like red onions because the color when they're pickled really looks nice. It's obvious that something's been done to them. All right, so I'm going to take that. Thought that was a sharp knife. I think it was a sharp knife. I'm going to cut the ends off. And I'm going to peel off top layer. All right, now, then I'm going to slice them like this and get thin slices. The thinner the better. If you have a mandolin and you're comfortable using it, that's a good way to do it if you're not comfortable using the knife. I missed a few shots there. Now I'm going to put these in a bowl as I go along, break them up. Same thing with this one. It came off a lot easier. And I'm going to cut these the same way. The thinner the slices, the better. The advantage of using something like a mandolin is you might get a really even slice, whereas I'm not so good with a knife that I'm going to get perfect slices. But I will get good enough slices. Now, the sharper the knife, the less problems you're going to have with your eyes. And obviously cutting onions, fresh onions, the fresher, the more likely you're going to get a little teary-eyed, a little burning in your eyes. But a sharper knife is supposed to help that, so I did sharpen it before this, so hopefully that's making some difference. All right, it's coming along. Okay, there we go. I'm going to take the scraps and I'm going to throw them away. The next step is to break them up as much as you can. And then we are going to add boiling water. Make sure they're all covered. We're going to count to 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then I am going to dump them out. All I did was dump the water out and put it back to drain. Now, the next step is we're going to take some bottles and we're going to fill these bottles with the onions. I might can get by with just 2 bottles. This was a decent sized onion, but it wasn't an enormous onion. Yeah, I'm probably gonna get by with just 2 bottles. If I push them down enough. And the idea is really to get them in there pretty tight so that when you put the seasoning on them, it will cover them. These are refrigerator pickles. These are not gonna be able to be left out on the counter. We're gonna leave them in the refrigerator and they'll last a couple of weeks while we use them, but they don't usually last very long. After you make a batch of these, they go pretty fast. All right, so there we go, and let's say we have, decent 2 bottles worth. The next step is we've got to prepare the pickling. I'm gonna get that ready and we'll do that in just a second. Okay, after looking at this more closely, I decided I really only had enough for 1 jar. So that's what I'm gonna do. I put all the other onions in there and I'm gonna make 1 jar. So we're gonna start off with some cloves, whole cloves just for flavor again. We'll throw them here and let them cook for just a second, just to bring out the flavor. And I'm going to take 2 cinnamon sticks and throw them in there. And let those cook for just a few minutes. Let them get warm and we'll bring out the flavor in them. You can hear them popping a little bit. You can smell the flavor coming out. Okay, now I'm going to add apple cider vinegar. Turn the temperature off for a minute. Let that seep into there a little bit. I'm going to add the juice of 3 medium limes. That's 1.5. Two. Now that is going to be a pretty acidic mix right there. You got apple cider vinegar and limes. All right. And here's the last one. And they have a lot of juice, so that's good. All right, so there is that. I'm going to turn this back on. Get it up to simmer again. And I'm going to add 1/4 cup of sugar. You could add more or less depending on your taste. It's pretty intensely lime, so you may really want that much sugar. That's been about right when I've made it before, but I've made it both ways with a little more, a little less. It's still pretty good. And finally, we're going to add some salt. If you make this, you could make it with a lot of other things. You could put garlic, you could add all sorts of things and change out the lime, use different vinegar. So there's a lot of options for this as far as flavor. This is supposed to be more of a Mexican pickle, with not being Mexican, I don't know. Over the years I've found a bunch of different recipes for this, and they all say that it's for a Mexican pickle. So somebody let me know if that's actually what this is. If this is something that actually is eaten in Mexico or somewhere in that area anyway. But it has cinnamon, cloves, limes, vinegar. So it sounds like it's possible. Now, okay, we got it simmering. So we're going to let it simmer for a couple minutes to really get those flavors in. I'm going to have probably a little more brine than I need for this. I'm going to have enough for perhaps 2 jars, so I may save it and do another jar. But at this point, we'll start with what I got. All right. So we've got 1 jar. I'll make sure that everything's pushed down under the liquid. And I'm going to put a lid on it. And I'm going to put it in the refrigerator once it cools a little bit. So that should give us a jar of pickled red onions that can be used in all sorts of things. Put them over steak, put them over tacos, put them in salads. They're generally good for almost anything you might want to do. So if you get a chance, give it a try and see what you think. If you enjoyed this video, please subscribe and give us a like. Thank you.